Errol Spence, will he return to 147 pounds to take on Terence Crawford after Thurman at 154 pounds? What's good, everybody? It's your boy Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. All right, so news broke yesterday that Errol the Truth Spence Jr. will be taking on Keith one-time Thurman in April. The exact day hasn't been released yet, and the venue hasn't been released yet. But I think you can put a 90% chance on the fact that it will happen in Cowboy Stadium. I think Errol Spence is going to take advantage of the fact that Texas has one of the biggest stadiums in the world. He's from Texas, has a huge fan base in Texas. Why not take advantage of that for the Thurman fight? You know, if they move it out Vegas, there's something else going on in the background if they move it out Vegas, because it really makes no sense to do the Thurman fight out Vegas. It didn't make any sense for the Crawford fight to be on a neutral site for real, but I think because of pressure from Team Crawford and the fact that they wanted the fight to happen, I think Errol Spence was willing to, you know, move the fight to Vegas, even though it would have made more sense in Dallas, Texas, in the Cowboy Stadium, and would have made a lot more money down there. But will Errol Spence be returning to 147 after Thurman at 154 for Crawford? You know, a lot of people are reporting now that Ordanius Ugas was Errol Spence's last 147-pound fight. I've been saying for a long time that the reason it was taking such a long time, I don't think it really had anything to do with the last car accident, anything like that. I think it had more to do with Errol Spence trying to make his ultimate decision and what's going to financially be beneficial to him, PBC, and everybody involved. And I kind of figured that he was going to be making that jump to 154, and that was the reason it was taking so long. You know, because he made it known last summer that Terence Crawford was his last 147 fight. He had said it on several occasions. He wanted the Crawford fight to complete his 147 stint, and he was going to 154 because the weight was too hard to make. Now, people once again are reporting that he's not returning to 147, that the Terence Crawford fight is in fact going to take place at 154. Now, I think this completely complicates things even more, but I think that there is actually a clear picture if you read between all the lines. Listen, I don't think that Errol Spence and Terence Crawford are going to be fighting at 154 anytime soon. I think that there's a possibility it could happen in the future, but the problem with that is there will be no titles on the line. It'll be all for bragging rights. You know, what do those bragging rights really mean if there's no titles on the line? The reason that the fight was so big was it was undisputed, and all those titles would have been on the line. So there really isn't a need for a Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence fight without title belts. So I want to start off by saying that there is no need for that fight to happen without title belts. The whole problem I've had with Spence moving to 154 is Charlo. Charlo's still the champion, and he's the unified undisputed champion. So I don't understand why people think for some reason that Earl is going to fight Charlo. That's not going to happen. I think they both have basically agreed to not doing that fight. I'm hearing that Charlo's going to move up to 160, but when is that going to happen? You know, the thing about moving up in weight is dropping titles. If you're a title holder, then you have to drop those titles and basically start over. I know you can go straight into, you know, a championship fight, but if you lose that at the higher weight class, you're basically starting over. I know you do because you're a champion at a lower class. It elevates you in the new weight class. So I don't think he would have to completely start over, but there will be a level that Errol Spence has to go through before I think he became a champion at 154. And for that reason, I seriously doubt that the Errol Spence Terence Crawford fight is going to happen at 154, because Errol would have to go in and do some work at 154, and Terence would have to go in and do some work at 154. I think both of them going in and trying to make a fight at 154, it doesn't make sense. I don't think it sells. I don't think that fight sells, where they still have the fight at 147 on the table that would sell. You know, that fight would sell because of all those titles. And here's one more reason I actually think it's going to happen at 147 and not 154. If Errol Spence was going to not fight Terence Crawford at 147, I think he would have already dropped the titles. There's no reason for him to hold on to the titles to walk into the Keith Thurman fight as the champion at 147, but you're planning on dropping them anyway. That might still happen, but I don't understand the logic behind that. It really doesn't make any sense to me. Why are you trying to hold on to the title belts unless you plan on fighting Terence Crawford at 147? I think all of this has to do with the fact that Errol Spence said he would never fight Keith Thurman. And now he's kind of being forced to fight Keith Thurman. I'm guessing Al Heyman doesn't want to pay him step-aside money, or perhaps he offered him some step-aside money that was turned down. But the only way for Spence to get out of this, without looking kind of foolish for saying you wouldn't fight Thurman and then turning around and doing it anyway, is by him to get that exemption and fight Thurman at 154. The fight really doesn't make sense to me at all. It's just a easy fight, a money grab for PBC, and it's really getting in the way of other things happening. You know, I don't understand why the WBC ordered this. I don't understand why Al Heyman didn't try to fight it. And I don't understand why Spence didn't just say, I want the Crawford fight next. What the F is the point of this tune-up? You know, this is basically a tune-up. Thurman's done. He has nothing left in the tank. This fight makes no sense. You know, it's just wasting everybody's time. PBC fans want it, but the majority of boxing fans don't need this. Boxing doesn't need this. It's not helping boxing in any way. He should have just walked straight into the Terence Crawford fight. If he needed extra time, just say, hey, I need extra time. We'll do it in the summertime. Give me 4 extra months to train. You know, I would rather him do that than put on this Keith Thurman fight. It just doesn't make sense. But to me, the fact that he did not drop the titles lets me know that the Terence Crawford fight is still in play at 147. Unless Terence Crawford decides to move up. Now, if Terence Crawford has already made his mind up that he no longer wants to campaign at 147, that could potentially change everything. But I think Errol Spence would actually still take one more 147 fight, because I think the Boots fight could make him some money. Even though Boots is not super popular, he's popular enough to where he could clear probably about the same amount fighting Boots as he would fighting Keith Thurman. This is the reason I say the Thurman fight doesn't make sense from a standpoint of you know, there are fights out there that you could make that are better fights than the Keith Thurman fight. But it makes sense because these young lions ain't playing no games, and they want them belts, and it's a risk for Errol Spence or Terence Crawford to be taking on Vergil Ortiz, Jaron Ennis, you know, anybody else that's lower level than them at this point in their career. I'm of the opinion Crawford Spence is going to happen in the summertime. It will happen in 147, and then Errol Spence will drop all of those titles. It'll be a free-for-all after that. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. You're more than likely to get a response on the tube. If you want to collabo, hit my Gmail, flockofcards@gmail.com. And we are out of here.
Let's go. Yo, it's sorta like NASCAR. How these niggas take wheels off of fast cars, we not right. About to shine like dandruff and neon lights. Know you feel the shit that we on, right? I got your bitch and she's on pipe, taking pictures of herself. And if you're really slanging, you're snitching on yourself. So look at it that way. Why I'm looking at your rat from the back way. Then I'm looking for a black in the ashtray. But if that black ain't freak, you can keep it thinking rap ain't heat. You was sleeping, I attack that beat. I'm the reason. Something hit your dome, now you're sleeping. Worse than the chrome when you're beefing. Something get thrown, now you're leaking. Game coming out when I'm speaking. Tell you dang, freaking bone for the evening. Bet I leave alone by the weekend. Now let's go. Let's go, my Nashville niggas. Let's go, my Nat Town niggas. Let's go, Cincinnati. Let's go, nigga. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, nigga. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Time to wind it down. Either you rewind it now. I want big stacks, way up to the sky from the ground. Don't want a chick in to time it down, unless she's really talking about time it down. Freak, shake your ass, make a little cash. Tell your man right before I make that dash, I'ma use the back of his head to break.